Yeah, this is Jim at Crawl Auto Parts, and we're going to be putting on the KAP108D passenger side rear exhaust manifold clamp. It repairs two bolts, the back two and the passenger side, which are broken down in here. It's this vehicle we're working on is a 2004 GMC with a 5.3 liter V8 LS motor. And the tools you're going to be needing, we've got over here, but just pretty much take care of everything you need. We've got a 3/8 ratchet, 3/8 extension about a 5-inch, 17 millimeter hand wrench, 2-inch extension, 17 millimeter socket, 15 millimeter socket. We got a 17 millimeter ratchet wrench here with a swivel. They're really handy for a job like this, if you've got one. We got an 8H, it's a hexed Allen wrench socket, and you can use a regular Allen wrench too. 13 millimeter 3/8 drive, a hammer, and just a 1/2-inch extension that we're going to use later on, and I'll show you what to do with that. We're now going to go back over here to the truck. I'm going to show you where the dipstick bolt we have to remove pretty much is the first thing to do. I'll show you where it is here. The bolt is right here. It's a 15 millimeter. And you will have to remove that bolt temporarily, but do not remove the stick, just the bolt. Okay? That's going to be the first thing I'm going to do, okay? You want to use a 15 millimeter socket for this bolt. Here's the bolt. The next thing I like to do at this point is, you can see the stick is loose now. Be careful with it. You don't want to be real rough with the stick. I like to pull off the spark plug wires from the last 3 back here. I like to pull them off on the coil ends. They come off much easier than they do off of the plug, and they don't hurt themselves this way. So you get those 3 off so they're out of your way. Again, as you can see, these are the back 2 bolts broken. There's one right here on the manifold, second from the back, and the one way in the back, located way back in here. Okay? Alright, now we've got the bracket here. It's the KAP108D. You want to make sure your pinch bolts, these right here, are turned all the way back, turned all the way in, so they're down, so they're away from the manifold. And what I like to do when I do these is I usually put the back bolt or the front bolt, either one, in the bracket first, but just one bolt. And then go down in there and get her caught. It's a little tight back here, but take your time and you'll get her in place. And you have to move the dipstick around a little bit, so just to get it caught. I'm going to put the back bolt in first. And put just a little bit of oil on the threads. You don't need any Loctite or any kind of lock washers. There's no need for that. Get the bolt caught and turn it in. They usually turn pretty easy. It's a little oil, like I say, on the thread. If you do have one that turns hard, just maybe take the bracket back out and just put the bolt in and turn it in and out a few times just to clean out the threads. Okay, we got the back bolt in. Now what happens is the manifold heat shield a lot of times hits under our bracket, and it holds the bracket up in the air. And in the instructions it says you may have to bend this or even cut a little bit of the heat shield away. But we found over the past years with putting these on, the easiest thing to do now is to take that long extension I showed you before and reach down, and on the front top of the bracket, or if you are working on the back side, just hit down on our bracket and just beat it down, and that'll actually bend that heat shield just enough around there to get the bracket in place. And then you can get the front bolt in. Now, like I said, the dipstick is always a little bit of a headache with these. Just maneuver it a little bit out of the way, but don't get real rough with it. You don't want to be breaking a dipstick off, especially if it's got some corrosion problem. And then you get the front bolt caught in position here. Okay, once you got those two down and to pretty much secured, whether you have to use a wrench or you can do it by hand, you want to go back to a 17 millimeter socket to tighten the two down. And I've got a socket and an extension. You might want to use the extension, you may not. It's up to you what you want to try to get in there with, but we'll go without the extension on the back ones here. Now these bolts that hold the bracket to the head, you do not have to have them ridiculously tight. You want them just snug. That's tight enough. They're not going to come out because once they got the load of the pinch bolt on the other part, they're pinned, they can't back out. And I'll take the front one down here. I got an extension on this one so I can get in there. And some of them with the auxiliary air conditioning, this shield here is real close when you're working. Sometimes I like to even just carefully bend them out of the way just a little bit. You know, don't have to wreck them or anything, just move them a little bit. Okay, we got the front one tight too. And now we're going for tightening the pinch bolt. The pinch bolt on the back of this manifold, the back pinch bolt is a 17 millimeter, just like the one you just used to put the bracket on. You want to turn that pinch bolt down. You can start feeling a pull. You just want to keep on pulling. Even if it pulls hard, just keep on pulling it. Because it'll get solid at the end. Just keep pulling. Alright, I got that one pretty tight. I'm going to go back to that one again. I'm going to do the front one now. Here's where we get the 8 millimeter hex socket. And you can also use just an Allen wrench if you get an Allen wrench set and not a socket. That's not a problem. You turn the front one down. And the reason we use a hex head on the front bolt, as you can see, is for clearance. It's fairly tight there. We've got a lot of stuff in one area. And it worked much better with this hex head than it did with the other one. And pull it good and tight. I'll go back to the back one. Now we do have a torque spec on the pinch bolts. It is 20 foot-pounds, but it's really unnecessary to do that. Just don't use a bigger wrench than a small ratchet or a hand wrench. And you won't have a problem. You're not going to over pull this. They can take it. As you can see, it sinks for a long time. Yeah, now it's tight. I'm going to go to the front one again. Okay, we got them good and tight. Now, we'll put the plug wires back into place on the back here. Make sure they snap in. And then I will leave this one off for a second and we'll get the front bolt in on the dipstick here again. And this tube, you just have to bend it a little bit. And I want you to really see this here, what we do, because we do get calls on this. The tube has to go behind. It has to go behind the pinch bolt. It goes right in between here. It lands right above the head. You might have to bend the tube real lightly. Don't bend it outward. You want to bend it towards the back of the motor. Slightly, just in this area, real slightly. And then if you need to the top part here, when you put the retaining bolt back in, you might have to bend this back down just a hair. And see, it makes just a bigger area to go around. And if the tube touches the bracket or the bolt, that is not a problem. Do not worry about that. It's not going to hurt anything. And then put that 15 millimeter bolt back up on the dipstick tube here. And I'll grab my 15 socket. And we'll stick our last plug wire back on. And make sure they clip. You can hear it when they clip, they snap. This one here actually should go up a little further. Yeah. And like I say, it's going to touch up against the bolts here. Not going to hurt a thing. Dipstick is right in here, right behind it. It goes behind the pinch bolt. And he can take a better shot from the side here. He's going to show you a little better there. Okay. That's basically what's to it. You know, I'm glad if I can help you out with this. These brackets, we've had them out about 8 years now already, and they've worked out very well. They are US made. We make them here locally, and we stand behind them 100%. They work great. Thank you very much.